Hey friends, hope you're doing well. Hope you got your coffee. I got mine. Went to my local coffee shop and picked me up some fancy coffee this morning. But I wanted to talk about Willie Nelson and his troubles with the IRS. This week was the anniversary of Willie having just a whole lot of stuff seized by the IRS. And I thought, man, I'm going to see what was being reported about it at the time. It was in 1990 and 32 years ago. So as I started looking up old newspaper archives, the first thing I noticed was just the random pictures of day-to-day life stuff. And I was thinking, how in the hell could 1990 look like it was so long ago? I realized it was 32 years. That's kind of incomprehensible to those of us who remember 1990 rather well. But I just couldn't believe how old those photos look. We've all been through that every now and then. But I was reading articles, and there was a lot of just random, hey, Willie's off key with the IRS, just a bunch of corny headlines that didn't go too deep. But I found one particular article that I liked, and it was inspired by Willie's problems, and is written by someone named Retta Grimsley Johnson. I'd never heard of that person. Maybe you guys know Retta Grimsley Johnson. I believe this is a woman, and she really writes well, or wrote well. And this was in Longview, Texas newspaper. But I wanted to read you a little bit of that. It says, Willie Nelson, IRS trouble proves what a great American he is. Sometimes late at night, inspired by loud wine or too much song, I give what the few who know me well call the Willie Nelson speech. She had me already. In late night speeches, if late night speeches have subtitles, it might also be known as the quintessential American speech, or the oh no, she's gearing up to talk about Willie again speech. It runs even longer than a Sports Illustrated commercial, thus there are a few ungrateful detractors. My thesis, Willie Nelson is more American than Mom, Apple Pie, or Honda Civics. It's funny. Chevrolet got left out. He is the best all-time example of America's unique talents and enterprise, its failures and its successes. Consider, he started out a simple songwriter contributing crazy to Patsy Cline's brief but brilliant career. That alone should have assured him a place in the annals of American music. But to become a true American icon, he first had to face adversity, in this, the land of heartbreak, in Horatio Alger. Somewhere it is written, no fame or fortune without suffering. Obliging fate saw to it that he lumbered about in relative obscurity, his hair short and greasy, his chosen genre drowned out by emerging rock and roll. Heaven-sent adversity provided him with lyric fodder, and the nights on the road with genuine honky-tonk, honky blues. He cut his teeth on broken beer bottles. Willie finally had enough of adversity. He skipped a few weeks at the barbershop, punched a hole in his ear, replaced his drugstore cowboy duds with jeans and a bandana. Then he made what became known as the crossover. With his new look and old sound, Willie single-handedly made country music acceptable to people my age, who had grown up covering their ears when they heard so much as one nasal note or steel guitar. Man, there's two sentences right there that hold a hell of a lot of weight. How many people have said, I hate country music, but I like Willie Nelson? How many people say, I hate country music, but I like Johnny Cash? I hate country music, but I like Hank Williams. Willie occupied that space big time. But talk about overcoming prejudice. Sometimes in a longer version of the Willie speech, I admit Dolly Parton helped a little. She helped a lot. Soon hippies and preppies and all in between were singing along with Willie, not even realizing some of the new country hits were decades old. But Willie wasn't satisfied. Great Americans seldom are. He wanted his old fans back, too, the fuddy-duddies who refused to board the Rock and Roll Express. He cut the Stardust album right at the height of his newfound popularity with young listeners. He hummed a little Hoagie Carmichael and recaptured the allegiance of the older generation, and without losing a single hip fan. I like that she mentioned Hoagie Carmichael. That Stardust album is really, really great, and Hoagie Carmichael is buried about 50 miles south of me down in Bloomington, Indiana, and one of the great, all-time great songwriters. Indiana just happens to have quite a few great songwriters. Hoagie Carmichael and Cole Porter are two of them. But anyway, so what was left for Willie to do? He had conquered all ages, become the ultimate American, not overnight, but then overnight success is more British than American. He had fulfilled the requirements for becoming a true hero. He had struck early, suffered long, persisted, re-emerged, diversified, and succeeded. Next, he did the only thing left to do. Willie sang duets with every American carrying a tune in a bucket, not to mention some foreigners. His was a democratic act. And he found a cause, because great Americans always think about someone other than themselves. Damn straight. He sang for the bankrupt farmers, raising money and morale. Now, keeping current, his status as the quintessential American, Willie is in trouble with the IRS. When a friend suggested that negated my entire thesis about Willie, I pshawed. P-S-H-A-W-E-D, pshawed. Never seen that spelled before. Who besides yuppie number crunchers can understand the tax laws of this country? A simple country boy, a creative type like Willie, would be at the mercy of his accountants, as I choose to believe he was. The IRS has seized a lot of Willie's property, maybe even his golf course, which further helps Willie to epitomize an American struggling against his own success. I'd have to become convinced he knowingly cheated on his taxes to change my tune or speech about the ultimate American, in which case I'd brush off the one about Chris Christopherson, Evolution of a Genius. It says Retta Grimsley Johnson writes commentaries 3 times a week for Scripps Howard News Service. Scripps Howard News Service. I'd never heard of Retta, but I enjoy that. I didn't see this published elsewhere. I'm guessing this is a syndicated column that appeared elsewhere, but I just saw it in Longview, Texas newspaper. And I don't know what I think about country singers owning golf courses and such. I like the idea of people who have brought us great entertainment and great joy being rewarded for that. And, you know, it's an interesting thing about Willie, where he's everything that we think Willie is, the weed smoker, you know, staying out all night, playing the bars and all that. He's also the jogger, you know, the guy that plays golf. He's an interesting person. Never met Willie. Hope to one day, but never met him. And I'm glad he got out of his tax troubles. I think I remember reading that a lot of people bought his things at auction and gave them back to him. And that would be, I don't know, I like the spirit of that. I really do like the spirit of that. And I like, somebody contacted me a year or so ago, and they said that they represent the person who was Willie's lawyer during all of his tax problems, and they asked if I would interview him. And I said, hell yeah, but he lived in Texas, and I don't, and it's a long way off, and I don't, you know, I do everything in person. I haven't been to Texas, but hopefully next time I go there, I can look him up, and it would be interesting to hear that story from Willie's lawyer's perspective. It'd probably be a perspective that's not out there, and it'd be a fun one, but you know, stay tuned for that. I asked for some questions from my Patreon members and my channel members, my friends over there who help support this channel, and I just asked if they had any questions for me, and I got some really good ones. There's a kind of a theme going along with it. I'm not sure where to start, but let's see where I got. I had a question. I'm not going to name names in case people don't want to know. And I apologize for the sirens. You can't go anywhere quiet these days. But someone on Patreon said, I'd love to hear you speak about being a DIY musician and in the folk, alt country, indie world. I just recorded my first album and I'm getting ready to put it out. Do you have any advice for someone in my position? Anything you've learned over the years that you wish you knew earlier? Man, that is the hardest damn question. And it's something I bet you half of the people watching this are curious about, and I don't have like a clear answer. That's the thing that's so frustrating about the arts in general. If I wanted to become a plumber, I could go get that knowledge and I could get good enough and get the job. And if I'm really good, then I do really well at it. And if I wanted to become a lawyer, I could take a college course and I could take and pass the bar test and start working in law in some way, and then you could get in the door. But the arts, it's subjective as all hell, and there's just not a way to do that. I don't want to say anything discouraging to people, because I think music and the arts are an important thing in life, and I encourage everybody to pursue it in some way. But the part that's hard is when we talk about this, we're usually talking about like career and money and things like that. And man, it's really hard because you can control a lot of things. And I would say seize everything that you can control. Like today, you can go write a song. You don't have to have anybody's permission to do that. You can go write a song and you can teach yourself some guitar or piano or whatever the hell you want to accompany yourself with, and you can get better at it. You can maybe even find people that you're friends with or that you like, that you can play music with them and get used to playing music in a structure. All of that is beautiful and great. But the second you try to figure out a way to monetize that is when everything goes to hell, because you start asking people for permission to do things, and it usually has nothing to do with how good you are. Like I said, I don't want to be discouraging, but I don't want to bullshit you either. I was reading back what I wrote. I'd forgotten what I wrote, and I was a little surprised by this. I wrote, this is the hardest question of all, and I don't really know how to answer it. I want to encourage you, but most everything I would have to say would probably be discouraging. If you wanted to be a dentist or a plumber, there's a clear career path. I think I just said that. But the arts are a bit of a puzzle with no obvious way to solve it. Here's some half-assed wisdom. If you're hungry, you'll go to the grocery store. I've said this 100 times and I believe it. If you're hungry, you'll go to the grocery store. If you don't live near a grocery store, you're going to have to plant a garden. If you can't live somewhere with a great music scene, you're going to have to help to create a great music scene where you are. Try to be someone who is building something. This is a long, hard road with a lot of ups and downs. That's what DIY is. We'd all like to walk through the front door, but most of our names are not on that guest list. Don't compromise when it comes to your music. Be selfish as all hell and do exactly what you want to do. At worst, you'll have made a body of work that you think represents who you are as an artist. That's the most important part of any of this. And this is the part I get in trouble. But, if you were born into the music business, these are things you never have to worry about. If you're Willie Nelson's kid, you're born with a record deal. You're going to get a shot at it. Either you're good enough to do it or you're not, but you're going to get a shot at it that most of us will never get. And if your parents worked at a BMI, you're going to automatically know so many people. if they're an entertainment lawyer, you're going to have like a great shot at it. And doesn't mean that it'll work out, because it doesn't work out for most people, whatever workout means. But most of us don't have those opportunities. Most of us were raised in places like Wanamaker, Indiana, Festus, Missouri, Smoot, West Virginia. If you're out there, Alan, how you doing? Places like that, you know, Sunderland, England. You know, we're nowhere near the music industry. That's why people move to places like Nashville, New York, London, LA, places like that. The internet makes it better. You don't have to do that. But I will say, anything that I've tried to do through the traditional music business, like I would every now and then, like, hey, I got a little something happening here where there's a few people, you know, that are in the real music business, where it's like kind of a toehold. I would try that, and it just ended up just being, it wasn't a waste of time because you learned something from it, but it didn't go anywhere. I mean, anywhere. But when I just simply tried to do something myself and take it right to the people, whether that be booking a DIY tour or something like that, or just meeting people, you know, hanging out, making records, making a podcast, throwing these little videos together, those things have always been great. So whatever, if there's some version of that that you can do, I would encourage you to try to think outside the box like that. And if you make enough of a rumble at a young enough age, because let's be honest, ageism is real. It's the one big ism that the music industry is still, you know, throwing around. It's if you're of a certain age and you got gray in your beard, they could give two shits about you. And unless somehow you made some big stink somewhere. And if you're a woman, it's even worse, an older woman. It's but that's all right. It's not all right, but we don't need those people. You know, the internet has made so many things possible. I'm talking to you right now, and I didn't have to have anybody's permission to do it. You and I are interacting every Saturday and throughout the week or whatever, and you know things about me. And I'm just some cat in Indiana. I've had a really fun life and experiences along the way, but when it comes down to it, I'm just a cat in Indiana. I just got real animated and I ripped the microphone off of my chest. Talking about this kind of gets me fired up. But when we talk about making a living, you know, maybe it's best to consider having a different job and playing music for fun. And the people that and you get to define what success is in music. Nobody else does. You get to define that. And a lot of people, when I first started going to places like Nashville, and you talk to people who, you know, gatekeepers, it's a bad word for it because they're just people, but they would always ask me, well, what do you want to do? You know, what is it that you want to do in music or whatever? And I used to think it was a blow-off line, but it's a really good one. How can somebody know if they want to be part of what you're doing if you can't even express what it is that you want to do, like in actuality? You know, and I'd say I want to play 100 dates a year, and I want to have a career that reflects my value system. And I would just leave it at that. And people were often impressed by that, sometimes not. But you just get to say, you get to decide what success is. And, you know, just listen to just do what you want to do in those situations. Because it's all right to lose and to try something and it not turn out all right. That's okay. But if you're being who you are, but when you try to do something because you think it's going to be what's successful and you fail at that, or you lose, whatever that means, that feels pretty bad, you know? You don't want to do that. That's not good. You want to do things that you're comfortable with. And it's like dating. Don't pretend you're somebody you're not. Just be you. And if that person falls in love with you, they fell in love with you and not this person that you're trying to pretend to be, you know, and then you have that baggage as they meet the real you. But anyway, I have friends that play in restaurants, that teach guitar, they put kids through college, man, and they see their family every day. They sleep in their own bed. They're not chasing, you know, money all over the U.S. playing dive bars or whatever. I respect those people as much as anybody, sometimes more than a lot of people I know. Okay, this coffee's got me a little too fired up here. Okay, I'm getting a little bit off track here, and I keep knocking this microphone off of my thing. I have my hands full with the phone and the coffee. So I'm going to save some of these other questions. I've gone so long, but the most important thing to take from any of this, people ask me, you know, like advice, and I would distill it down into this. Artistically, we're talking about artistic. If you want to, my advice to artists, do whatever you want for whatever reason and live with the consequences. That's my artistic advice. I'm not saying life advice. I'm not saying go rob a liquor store and live with it. I'm not saying that. Artistically, do anything you want for whatever reasons and live with the consequences. And I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'm going to put a video up here. I think it's of me at Soundcheck in Omaha, and hopefully you guys enjoy that, and I'll talk to you soon. Much love to you.